right, we're going to be starting today's show with our In the Cubicle feature, which is a feature that we usually do to really unpack what's happening in the workplace. But the workplace is not as systematic as we used to know it. It's not as structured as the industrialized era that we were born into. Most of the time, we find ourselves navigating the workplace through technology. If you're not doing that and you're still sending your CV hand to hand to each workplace, you are way behind. We are in the future right now, and that is actually bringing many opportunities for many people, especially the baby boomers, where, back in the day, they used to just get a gold watch to show for their 50 years in service, and off you go with your little pension that's only going to be available to you for 2 years, maybe the most. But you know what? They're actually navigating the situation differently and moving differently right now in the landscape of the gig economy, where even technology is becoming a big vital part of that. Workers remain abreast of trends to survive. Workers in their 50s are not keen to slow down. And I think it's very unfair to say to someone who's 65 even to say, hey, your time is up, just let it go. I think people are still vitally important. They've got skills and knowledge systems within them that we need to actually draw from. So yeah, workers in the 50s are saying, we are eager to work, and the gig economy is creating opportunity for the generation of workers to take on new and different roles. We've got Yangeni Chendela on the line, author and HR manager, joining us from Zambia. Yangeni, welcome on the show.
Thank you, Benjamin. How are you?
Where in Zambia are you joining us? I'm good.
I'm joining from the capital city, which is Lusaka,
Ooh,
just
yeah.
right in the CBD.
Nice. You're right in the action. You're right in the buzz.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Let's talk a little bit about baby boomers. We discount them right now in a generation where we think we are hip and happening in the era of technology and artificial intelligence, and there's new jobs and what people call the new work era. What's your take about the significance of the baby boomers?
Okay. Thank you so much for inviting me to this conversation. And maybe just to start off, for those that may not know, who are the baby boomers? Yeah, because there's been a lot of talk around the Gen X, the millennials. Now we're talking about the Alpha generation.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at the individuals who were born between 1945 and 1961. And if you look at the age group of these people, majority of them are around 61 years, probably even 65. Okay, and because of the way they are positioned, chances that you and I, Benjamin, we can easily discount them, thinking that these are meant for retirement. But now, if you look at the retirement across the globe, due to the inflation, due to a number of changes in the economy, there's been an erosion in terms of the actual benefits that people end up getting after retirement. So now the question is, are we sending the baby boomers into depression? Because once they now go into the so-called retirement, there isn't much of the benefits that they're supposed to do. And then if we just look back, these baby boomers we're talking about, maybe we remove the title baby boomers. These are our parents, by the way.
Yeah, these are our parents. Yeah, you're right. No, some of our parents, yes, because we've got a younger generation that we are parents of.
Exactly. So you realize that the baby boomers are the individuals who have driven some of these organizations that you and I are working for. They are pioneers to major organizations, and they've done so much. Now, because of the changes in the economy, they have been sidelined to some extent, where people think that because they are aging and the workforce needs a younger generation, a more youthful generation, so many are the times that baby boomers have been sidelined. But today, the conversation that we're talking about is we want to give them hope, because remember, these individuals are coming with wealth of knowledge, and they've built this knowledge over time, and the experience and the expertise that they've accumulated remains very relevant in now what we're calling the gig economy.
Yeah, let's talk about that. What we mean also about the gig economy, because some people would be listening to us and like, I'm not sure what you guys are referring to.
Okay. So if you use the shortest way I can define a gig economy is an economy that is characterized by flexibility and individuals doing more of freelance jobs. You're paid by a gig. For instance,
Mm-hmm.
you DJs. I know that probably this is not the only job you're doing. Okay, if your contract allows you to do more than 3, 4 gigs. So the gig economy is where individuals can do more than 2, 3 jobs. They will be
Mm.
paid by the gig. So most people actually this gig economy has been pushed so much by COVID. Post COVID, people didn't want to go for work. They would rather be home and do a number of things. So now, forgetting that now they've created what we're calling the gig economy. We've
Yeah.
got some pros and cons to this gig economy. I'm not sure if you want us to go right into that.
Oh, yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Okay, sure thing. So you realize that due to the flexibility that the gig economy has, the baby boomers now have an opportunity that they can work as consultants. Okay, they can work as project engineers or project managers on particular ones because they do not want to be attached to one organization and start waiting for a retirement. They already passed this ambition of retirement. So the gig economy allows you to do a number of projects and getting paid as you're going. So this to the employer is okay because the employers now will not be paying your pension. They won't be paying your social security issues because they're just paying as it is. And to the individuals, it sounds okay. It sounds funny because now I can work in 3, 4 companies as well as I can work like I'm talking to the guys in South Africa. So I can work everywhere.
Yeah.
But the downside of it is that you're not saving your pension. You're actually not building a solid future
Mm-hmm.
because you're just flexible. And also, what the gig economy has done is that it has sort of replaced the permanent jobs and the permanent roles at
Mm-hmm.
the expense of these flexible jobs. So
Yeah.
you realize that for the younger generation, us who are prone to this, who like these gig economies, in the next 20, 30 years, you will ask if you're not saving and investing, what did you make of the years that you work?
Yeah.
Because you will feel like today I can spend a 20 rand, tomorrow I can spend a 15 rand, it will come because that's what the gig economy does. But are you saving? Are you investing this money? So those are some of the downsides of the gig economy, but it may work well for the baby boomers because remember them, they've already worked the last 20, 30 years,
Yeah.
and now they can be available to do the flexible jobs and do projects here and there.
That's so interesting that you put it like that. We're going to go to a break and unpack a little bit more on that. How are they sourcing these gig economies? Are they using the same technologies that we're using? Because one of the misconceptions that many of us have about the baby boomers is the fact that they're not technologically savvy, that they're not in with what we know. But things are changing for this generation. I think they are adapting to serious platforms, some of them, maybe not all of them, and maybe not on the African continent. Maybe we should bring our mothers onto these platforms and say, hey, check out LinkedIn and maybe you can get something there, mom, while you were sitting at work, or dad, you've got so much experience in consultancy work. Hey, why don't you look for something in the UK while you go on an online job platform? Well, we'll speak a little bit about that with our guest, Yangeni Chendela, author and HR manager, joining us from Lusaka, Zambia. What's your take on this one? Do you think the baby boomers are suited for our gig economy? Let us know. +2763 406 9126. That's where you can text us or voice note us right here on The Move.
Annika Longi sur Channel Africa.
Nous allons à présent dérouler notre tapis rouge pour accueillir notre personnalité du jour, l'artiste chanteur Sheky Frey, qui est en ligne de Guinée avec nous.
Je suis un artiste guinéen, un créateur, un styliste et je fais un peu ce qui plaît à mes fans. Voilà, c'est un peu ça. On a beaucoup de genres de trucs à faire, mais bon, pour le moment, on est basé un peu sur le rap.
D'accord. À quelle période de votre vie avez-vous commencé à vous intéresser à la musique, Sheky?
Bon, je crois pas qu'il y ait une période, hein, parce que moi, je suis un mélomane depuis mon petit âge.
Annika Longi, tous les dimanches sur Mix Vibration.
Download the SABC app. and take Channel Africa with you everywhere you go. Get set and be ready to go. On the move with Palesa and Benjamin Moshatama.
We are in the cubicle, and today we're speaking about a generation that we don't speak about often in these day and ages, especially when we speak about the world of work. We speak about the baby boomers, and many times they are discarded and put aside. They're old, and they're left to go and retire and do as they please. However, not only is the economy not allowing enough people to retire comfortably, but also they still are active. They still have a wealth of knowledge and skills that they can use. We're finding out how they can tap into the gig economy. We're chatting to Yangeni Chendela, who's an author and HR manager, joining us from Zambia to continue this conversation. See, one thing about the millennials and the Gen Zs and all the other generations that are coming after us, Yangeni, is that we are using technology to our advantage. But an advantage that these baby boomers have that maybe we're not as savvy in is they know how to build connection. They come from a generation where networking was important, where having relationships with people, interpersonal relationships, was important because they didn't have the internet. How can they use those particular skills to tap into that gig economy?
Okay, thank you so much. That's very interesting. I like it for the fact that we recognize that these individuals are coming from places where they believed in building a normal relationships, not what you and I have with a hi, hello on WhatsApp and LinkedIn. Then they believe that walk to your office, I come to your home, I'll be there for you. They build solid relationships. But now we're saying that a crucial aspect for successful reinvention for the baby boomers is willingness to embrace new technology. Okay,
Yes.
because the way that the gig economy functions, it is mainly thriving on technology. And what do we mean technology? If you are on LinkedIn, like Benjamin just put it, you'll be able to spot opportunities. Unfortunately, I'm not on TikTok, but I hear it from my wife. I hear it from the siblings at home. They'll tell you that there are opportunities even on TikTok.
Yeah.
But maybe one thing that we can try to remove here, it's a myth that the baby boomers may not be very tech savvy, because surprising, my mother is around 65. Okay, she's in the village. She's been calling me using a WhatsApp video call.
Yeah.
This is very strange. Okay. My father is always updated on what's happening on Facebook, is using Facebook. And these are the baby boomers we're talking about. So we're saying slowly there's been this technology embracing by the baby boomers, because you saw what COVID did. COVID basically allowed churches to be held online. But whether you like it or not, unless you didn't want to go to church, because you everything moved to online. So because of this force that came post-COVID, I think even the baby boomers saw an opportunity. So for them to be able to survive in this gig economy, I think embracing of technology becomes critical. And what we mean technology, they don't need to go and do degrees to understand how to use Zoom, for instance, to understand how to use a PowerPoint. These are things that a person who's smart, who's intelligent, who was leading an organization can easily embrace. And the one feature that I like about the baby boomers is that they're detail oriented. So then when they give themselves to learn something, basically they will even learn it better than you and I, because then they're able to question why and how does this machine function as it is. And this is the very reason. Yes, please. This is the very reason we've seen that in the consultants world, a lot of baby boomers have gotten a lot of projects because everybody believes in their wealth of knowledge.
That's 100% true. But let's add in there that they might also need a very patient child or grandchild to take them through the process of how these technologies work, which is okay. I mean, let's speak about that. The collaboration that can be intergenerational, so that we don't lose the wealth of skills and knowledge that our baby boomers have. How can we work together in an intergenerational way to continue to support them, but also to support our industry so we don't lose that knowledge?
Okay, so I'll give you a practical example. I recently had a project to do some consultants, which I'm yet to do actually. So we're just doing the projects in the background, okay? And people that I'm supposed to train actually, majority of them are Generation X and a bit of baby boomers, the owners of the company, and it's a law firm, okay, and you know the lawyers, there are always this structure. But when I was calling one of my colleagues who's an HR director, one of the big banks, they said they've got a niece who recently studied AI in the law firms, okay? And she's one of the few individuals who understands this. So now, what happened is that she joins a law firm where the senior partners, they don't know how to use this new technology, which is AI in the legal firms.
Yeah.
So now, this millennial or maybe Gen X, Gen Z, okay, now has the knowledge which the baby boomers and the Generation X do not have. Now that right there is an opportunity for what we call reverse mentorship.
Okay.
Okay, reverse mentorship is where a junior is knowledgeable in something that you, the senior, may not know. But that requires a lot of humility because naturally, when you're in a senior position, you seem to be, you're the one who's knowledgeable and you're the one who's in control. But now we have to accept that for baby boomers to thrive in a gig economy, they may need to just step down a bit and be able to learn from it. And it's okay because we all agree that we can learn from any person. And this is what we're now encouraging, what we're calling reverse mentorship, where a junior person is knowledgeable in a field that you, the senior, may not be aware of.
That's so interesting that you say that because I'm wondering, like, after retirement, when do you stop when you have so many opportunities? Let's be honest, the gig economy has so many infinite opportunities there. And I think at some point as a human being, you should rest at some point. So how do you know that you are still equipped enough to keep going? Because the financial thing can become an overriding one to say, I still need to push so I can save a little bit more money before I retire. When would you advise for baby boomers to actually say, okay, now it's time to rest? But I think it's good to have a gig economy that supports them. But what's your take on the rest element?
Okay, I think last week I was in Zimbabwe. We had an HR convention, and this topic came out because Zimbabwe just increased their retirement age from, I think, 65 to about 70. And everybody was not happy with that because what that means is that the younger people that are leaving uni will not have the opportunity to start work because that individual is still holding on to this job. So equally, this is a challenge that I foresee even not only in Zambia, but also, let's just say, Southern Africa, because the more that the older generation continue holding on to these positions, the more that the younger generation will delay to join in this world of work. So for me, the advice is, if I've got somebody who's a baby boomer or even a Gen X and they're complaining that we have too much unemployment around and a lot of youths are not being sent into jobs. The question is, why are you still holding on to those projects and jobs? Because you can't be 65 and 70 and still working, right? And when will that young person be given an opportunity? So for me, I still advocate for the things like 55 and 60 years as a normal retirement age, because imagine if your grandfather or your great-grandfather didn't die, he's still alive today, okay? You have 3, 4, 5 generations still alive. One is 200, the other one is 150, the other one is 100, the other one is 80. I think we will lose track there. I think that's why naturally...
You know what?
We love our great-grandfathers. We wish they were alive.
I wish so. But you know what? I saw what happened to my grandmother, who she was a domestic worker. When she stopped working, I just saw how it sucked the life out of her. And she wasn't ready. But the law was saying, hey, it's time for you to let go.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. But we have to leave it there. We've unfortunately run out of time. Thank you so much for your time, Yangeni. It's been great to speak to you. And hopefully the baby boomers were listening today and really tapping into those opportunities to be a part of that gig economy. I know one of our favorite listeners is a baby boomer.
I know two of our favorite listeners are baby boomers. And I was saying to Palesa,
shout out to them and we wish them well. The gig economy is supporting.
I was saying to Palesa that, you know what, I should actually go to LinkedIn and see if I can find a gig job for my mom, just so that she can get stuff done during the day. Because sometimes you can tell there's a little bit of boredom boredom there.
Yeah, well, that's Yangeni
Absolutely.
Chendela chatting to us about that. He's an author and HR manager joining us from Zambia, speaking to us about how baby boomers can reinvent themselves in the gig economy. That's our In the Cubicle feature.